Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a brand new episode of F122. My team Grim. I hope you're all having a great day. Today, we have the Canadian GP coming at your way, my home GP, and actually the first race here since all the way back in 2019 due to the pandemic that we had to go through there for a couple of years. So excited to be able to come back now to this circuit here legitimately on the schedule now. Obviously, we've had it in past games, but it was crossed off the schedule in both 2020 and 2021. Charles Leclerc comes into this Canadian GP on an absolute tear here, winning 5 straight Grand Prix, and he's won now so many this season. 7 GPs coming into race number 9. He could go for 8 for 9, and he's been on the pole in every single episode so far. It's been absolutely unbelievable what Charles Leclerc has been able to do now, as we were getting some laps under our belt here in practice, where I kind of struggled a little bit here in the practice session in Canada for a little bit now. As you can see as well, the icon there for the engine still up on your screen there towards the bottom right. Still having our gearbox pretty worn out, but I will change that gearbox before we get into qualifying, because I was pretty confident the gearbox wouldn't make it through another Grand Prix weekend without some kind of fault where the gears get jammed, or maybe even a complete failure as well is a possibility. So here we were making some of our race strategy kind of programs and seeing if we could actually go above the delta here. We struggled in Baku with the delta, but here we were doing okay. It was a close call here. We were definitely right on that fine line of being above that delta. As you can see, less than a tenth actually in the positive, but still we were at least able to complete the goals here of the delta times in these race programs. And P17 on the medium compound tire there in free practice. 1 Piastri on the soft compound tire, way off. Pretty confident he's going to have more pace than that here now. But what we were finding pretty quickly as we were jumping through now into qualifying, a more overcast day here on the Saturday. But what I was kind of finding here is our car really not suited for this circuit here in Montreal whatsoever. So that was a bit of a concern here coming into this qualifying session. Wasn't really expecting to even be a contender to make it into Q2. The last couple of qualifyings we've had here from Monaco and Baku, both very crazy qualifying sessions. We saw a big crash in the last episode in Q1 in Monaco with Lando Norris going airborne after getting hit from behind by Perez, as well as we saw Sebastian Vettel pile in as well. But I only made 1 lap here in Q1. It was late in the session. I knew we just didn't have great pace in the car this weekend, so like I said, only made 1 actual lap here now, as it actually cleared up very quickly. As you can see, sunny skies by the end of Q1, but we're going to come through out of that chicane. Piastri was currently P21, not looking good himself. We crossed the line to go briefly P16. As you could imagine, that would not stick here with this car. Struggles this weekend. It's P20 and P22 for myself and Piastri. The worst qualifying effort I think we put up all season long. When I said our car wasn't working with this track, I was not kidding. We've got some work to do here in our home GP here in Montreal. So let's head to the grid for the Canadian Grand Prix, see if Leclerc can finally be taken down in Montreal.
We're back once again beside the St. Lawrence River here in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. The event first moved to the variant of this track back in 1978, and it was won by none other than Gilles Villeneuve, the first Canadian to ever win his home race, and in whose honour the circuit would be renamed. If you want flat-out racing, you've come to the right place this weekend, as it's full throttle for 59% of this 2.7-mile circuit, peaking at around 210 miles per hour going into the final chicane. But that speed requires discipline, and there are more than a few close walls here just waiting to punish drivers with a heavy right foot. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and a very happy Carlos Sainz will start second. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Perez, George Russell and Hamilton, Magnussen, Mick Schumacher, Bottas and Fernando Alonso, Norris, Ocon, Guan Yu Zhou and Ricciardo, Stroll, Latifi, Yuki Tsunoda and Alex Albon, Golden Boy, Vettel, Oscar Piastri and Pierre Gasly picks up the final grid slot. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? And a warm welcome to Natalie Pinkham, who's beside me in the commentary box today. Let's discuss Red Bull. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within the team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do. And that has definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
I know this is your home Grand Prix, but treat it like any other race. Let's not make any unnecessary risks.
There you hear our race engineer Mark there to us about our home GP, not taking any unnecessary risks once again from the medium to hard compound strategy here. Now, as there's been some options that go onto the soft tire to start the race, and you can see some drivers actually taking it here today in Canada, more so than we usually see. Piastri's going onto the soft compound tire, Yuki Tsunoda as well, and I think another driver or two in front of us might actually be starting on that soft compound tire here as we are ready to go. Lights out from the Canadian Grand Prix here in Montreal, starting from 19th place, Piastri P21. It's going to be 5 red lights and it'll be lights out. We are underway here from the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal. Charles Leclerc, as usual, with a strong start down into turn 1. Already got the Spaniard of Sainz covered off. Well, I said that too quick because of the inside. Goes Sainz into turn 1. They're going to be wheel to wheel on the exit of turn 2, but it's not going to matter. It's already Leclerc out in front. Sainz all over the place here trying to make something happen, but it's just not going to happen for him, unfortunately, as he still chases that first Grand Prix victory now, as you got the Red Bull of Perez just in behind. You got Verstappen, you got Russell, Hamilton, as well as you see the two Haas drivers of Magnussen as well as Schumacher, and Haas has probably been the fourth most consistent team so far this season in this My Team career mode. Alfa Romeo probably in Alpine, the next two behind them, and then you go down to the Alfa Tauris, the Williams, the Aston Martins, and then of course you got ourselves as well in the Trackhouse Racing team that's been having such a rough first season, but that's what we expect. A rough debut season here. It's not going to be easy there. Zhou Guanyu, a big lunge up the inside of Lando Norris there, wheel to wheel as they head down this long straightaway, but you can see that Zhou gets cleared by Lando now as he's going to fall in behind as he continues to try and make that pass. Hopefully he doesn't get stuck behind Lando like he got stuck behind Lance Stroll in real life here in Canada, but there you go. Wheel to wheel up the inside again, and Zhou Guanyu with an aggressive move, and it works. He gets past Lando Norris and McLaren's. They're not known to have the best pace here in a straight line this season so far, way off of what they had last season in F1 2021. Now, as you can actually see now, McLaren wheel to wheel. You got the soft compound on Norris's car, the mediums on Ricciardo, and he's putting the pressure on Lando Norris, but Norris is going to remain ahead. A very kind of elbows out kind of start here in this Montreal Grand Prix so far, but everybody for the most part was able to keep their cars clean and not get some wing damage, other than that guy right there, Nicholas Latifi, picked up some wing damage there. So a tough break for one of 3 Canadians here on the grid now, and no Canadians currently in the points. Lance Stroll, myself, and Latifi. I was down at P21, so I was a little bit slow up the start, lost a little bit of ground into turn 1. Piastri was able to get past me as well as the AlphaTauri, so we were down in this 21st position. Piastri on the soft compound tire, so he's going to have to pit before us. He's on the 2-stop strategy compared to myself on the 1-stop. It'll be interesting to see when we have direct teammates here on a different strategy, which one's going to work out more, the 2-stop or the 1-stop. Based off the pre-race projection is that the 2-stop strategy is going to take about 7 seconds longer to complete the race, so it'll be really interesting to see how this is going to work itself out. If it stays green, of course, if a safety car comes out, you can throw that out the window of any strategy projections with the timing and whatnot here, but we were on lap 5 and I was kind of stuck where I was, and Piastri on the soft compound tire couldn't get any closer to Vettel, and I couldn't get really much closer to Piastri, so showing the lack of pace today in our car, but at the end of lap 7, here comes Piastri into the pits here on that soft compound, and he is going to bring Yuki Tsunoda as well as into the pit lane, so they come in to put on a set of mediums, and then they're going to have to make another pit stop here before this race comes to a close. Now, as I was closing in on Pierre Gasly and Sebastian Vettel, who were in a side-by-side wheel-to-wheel battle, they really held themselves up, so I'm right on the gearbox now of Vettel, who's going to lock up there into the chicane, and we're going to be able to slip through and take 18th position there over the 4-time world champion here. What a miserable season so far it has been for Sebastian Vettel. Nothing's really been going right for him. He's had a couple of mechanical failures. So has our teammate of Oscar Piastri, who's actually had the most mechanical failures of anybody this season so far. We've been fortunate. We haven't had a mechanical failure or a single DNF whatsoever here now as we come through on the lap 11. And I could not shake Vettel. I knew he had a faster car than me, and he was trying to show that. Up the inside, he goes a lunge up the inside into the hairpin, wheel to wheel, but we have a better line and more momentum, more grip here on the exit, so we're able to power ourselves back out in front of Vettel here for the time being in that Aston Martin. But I knew it was just a matter of time until he was going to be able to get past me, because I was really wearing out my ERS by trying to stay ahead on these straightaways here. We just don't have good straight line speed. That's where we're losing the most time in this Trackhouse Racing car, is in the straight line. There's some oversteer on the exit of the hairpin. I knew right then that was Vettel's just an absolute blatant opportunity to be able to cruise on by just like that right there. I didn't even really try to defend it here. I'm trying to save battery at this point here before we make our first and hopefully only pit stop of the day here in Montreal. So Vettel up into 17th once again behind Pierre Gasly now as we close in towards lap 15, and Daniel Ricciardo now going to make a move up the inside of myself on that medium compound tire. He was in the pit lane. Now he started on mediums, and then so he must have got some wing damage somewhere. That's why he was in the pit lane here now as we come through towards the end of lap 15. You can see now Charles Leclerc kicking off the pit cycle there. He's going to bring in Verstappen as well as Lewis Hamilton here as they're all going to be putting on the hard compound tires now, as right now it's once again as usual Charles Leclerc run away with Carlos Sainz in behind in that second position now as we were getting ready to come into the pit lane as well at the conclusion of this 15th lap here. Now as you see Vettel, he's going to remain on the track along with Ricciardo as expected for Ricciardo, but Vettel's going to do an extra lap or maybe two as we get ready to come in for hopefully a smooth pit stop. But there you see the safety car is actually going to come out as we're in the pit lane, so I mean perfect timing for us, but it's not really going to get us much of a gain here, and it was actually going to be the AlphaTauri of Yuki Tsunoda who brought out the safety car. So in the chicane in the final corner he hits the wall of champions there, and debris just gets tossed everywhere. That's multiple times the safety car has been thrown for debris this season. As you can see, I mean just an absolutely horrendous exit there to that wall of champions. I think he was reacting to the side-by-side in front of him, and unfortunately for him he takes big damage there. Fortunately though, Yuki is still in the Grand Prix now. As you can see, after the whole thing got cycled out, Sainz and Perez, they were all able to come in a lap later here under the safety car conditions, but they didn't really get affected by it because Leclerc, Sainz, Perez still your top three, with Russell, Hamilton, Verstappen, Hamilton there is going to be fourth through that sixth position now. Piastri will line up P18, but he still has to make another pit stop. So Piastri did not elect to come into the pit lane under the safety car, so he still has to make another pit stop under these potentially green flag conditions before this Grand Prix actually comes to an end, as Charles Leclerc leads us back underway into turn one. The Spaniard of Sainz just behind him, looking for that first win, similar to real life here, where Carlos Sainz is in second place trying to run somebody down to win his first GP in Canada. Will history repeat itself like real life? Will he get his first win in Silverstone? I don't know, because he's going to need, I would think, a miracle. I mean, Leclerc's stats right now are through the roof with the momentum, and the better the driver does, of course, their focus goes up, and focus is a really important stat here in this F122 rating system. And when you got Leclerc winning race after race, I mean, his focus is extremely high, I'm sure, and it's going to be so hard to take him down without some type of mechanical issue or something out of his control where somebody maybe runs into the side of him, gives him wing damage, etc. It's going to take a miracle at this point, I think, for anybody to be able to beat Leclerc. But think, like to what I said in the last episode, I feel like if Leclerc just has one off day, something goes wrong, it could be kind of like the floodgates opening and Ferrari just kind of internally explodes and everything just starts to go wrong from there. Already closing in on the midway point of the season, so yeah, we're running out of time here now as Piastri is going to come into the pit lane at the conclusion of lap 20, so that'll be his final pit stop of the day, and another rough day for Piastri there, this time just kind of being messed over with the strategy, and a rough day for us as well. There's just no pace in the Trackhouse car now. It's actually yellow flags up ahead. It's going to be a McLaren again who's pulling over to the side of the track, and it's going to be Lando Norris now who's going to be out of this race. Mechanical failures have really been a bit of a burden on McLaren so far this season. Things haven't been working out for them in terms of the durability. They definitely need to improve. Our beginning of the season was horrendous with durability, specifically for Piastri, who had a lot lot of failures. We had a lot of issues, but we didn't have any failures, thankfully. Now, as Yuki Tsunoda, he would actually get close to me, close enough to where he could lunge up the inside there into the final chicane, and I just wasn't trying to push too hard because I needed to save my battery. Now, as you see, Leclerc continuing here at a midway point, or a late point in this race, 10 laps to go, continuing to lead, but Sainz is not far behind. But take a look here at Charles Leclerc's last 3 races here, and this is just a small little bit of this dominant season. He started P1 in the last 3 races, and he's finished P1 as well. I mean, it's just an unbelievable tear that Leclerc has gone on over Perez, and Russell now in 3rd and 4th, and Verstappen down there in 5th place. Verstappen's having a bit of a rough stretch here recently in this My Team career mode, and that's making it so much easier for Charles Leclerc as well. You saw Lewis Hamilton there, and I am actually now here with less than 10 laps to go, starting to really struggle with grip in this car. I had lost some time to Tsunoda and Gasly. Latifi was within about half a second of myself in the Williams, but you can see how much oversteer I am dealing with right there. That's 2 back-to-back corners right there that I was just struggling to get the power down without slipping and sliding around there in that rear end. Now, as we come to 6 laps to go, at this point, just trying to manage the gap to Latifi and save my battery, but he had enough straight line speed with the DRS that I had to use my battery every time it came to a straightaway. And look at this, lap 31, we only got 5% battery. So yeah, we are definitely in trouble here. Yellow flag's actually out in front of us, and it's Fernando Alonso. He has pulled off the track in a turn 1. He has also had a mechanical failure in the Alpine. So Alpine, usually one of the more reliable cars here. Now to lap 32, Ricciardo out of nowhere actually is up the inside of us now as we come through the chicane, and we made a big error. We've crashed into the inside pit wall, and we are out in our home GP here in Montreal. There, a sudden, unexpected moment. Ricciardo came out of nowhere. I didn't even realize he was closing in on us. He made the move up the inside of Latifi, and I thought he was going to go up the inside of me, so I drove it down in there really deep, and I crashed. I mean, no words. I just made a silly error right there, and I went into the barrier, and that was the end of our day. And it happened so sudden. It just, the whole sequence of events kind of just came out of nowhere, and out of the GP we would go.
How do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out of the track was: speed. It sounds like an awfully reductive statement, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
And here we are, a team that is no stranger to the podium, taking their place on top once again. A sublime race today, and a stunning win for Ferrari.
Charles Leclerc celebrates another win here in the Canadian Grand Prix. He has won a ton of races this season. That means he's now won 8 races. He won 2 races in his whole Formula 1 career coming into this season. He's now won 10 total in his Formula 1 career, with 8, as like I said, being all in this season here. An absolute unbelievable tear he is on, and there you see the finishing order on your screen. So myself, Alonso, and Norris all out of the races, plus 4 laps, but it was an actual retirement out of the race. So you see 110 points advantage Leclerc has over Max Verstappen there. I mean, an absolute insane gap to have after this point in the season here, before the even halfway point of the season. So we'll see what happens here in these coming episodes, if anybody can put the fight to Leclerc and Ferrari. Now, as you can see, we still hold the only lonesome point there for this Trackhouse Racing team. Aston Martin, Williams as well, still looking for their first points of the season, but they're definitely going to need some help, just kind of like how we got our help in Miami earlier in this season, to be able to get that one and only point that we have gotten. It was a very lucky point that we got. I do remember how crazy that one was. More upgrades on the way here as usual that we're going to be trying to get here to be on the car in the coming episodes, and hopefully some major ones, some minor ones in between as well, to really speed up this thing. And if you guys enjoyed it, as usual, you know what to do. That is going to wrap it up for us today. Unfortunately, our first retirement of the season, and it comes at our home GP here in Canada, not the place that we would have preferred a retirement happen in. An actual issue from my own self with the talent loss is what actually took us out of that Grand Prix, so that was very unfortunate. In the next one, though, we head to Britain, a home race for many teams and drivers on the schedule, so that should be hopefully a fun one at Silverstone. Hopefully the AI is better in this game than it was in the last game. But that's going to do it for myself. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching, and have a great day, everybody.